Yep. I would definitely say that's leaking.
Tuna can material.
That's alright. I'll get her. Looks like I got a couple of rivets in here too. That one there for sure. This one right here too. Ain't nothing. I've fixed a lot worse than this. Well, here's what we got going on here. You see that crack spidered out in the hull here, and they had put a patch plate on the bottom. Not a very good one, but anyway, I had to remove a rib here, and I'm gonna try to straighten this out a little bit and clean this edge and weld all that up, and then where this gusset is broke loose, it's gonna have to be welded. Also right there is a crack. Got several holes here where they had the steel screws in it. Those will have to be welded. Once I get this patched, then I'm gonna fill the boat with water again up here on the bow and check for leaky rivets up here. I found about a half a dozen on the left side of the boat, and I think there's probably a couple more up here on the bow that are gonna need to be welded up. Anyway, I'll get this junk cleaned out of the bottom here and get started. Well, I had to tear out this structural component here, which it's broke anyway right here. It's gonna have to be put back together, and that track's gonna have to go back in there like this. But I had to do that because the crack spider webs underneath where that structural component is, and I would rather weld this from the inside of the boat than try to do it from overhead underneath the boat, because that's really a pain in the ass. So this is absolutely the easiest way to do it. So now I've got everything exposed and out of the way, and I can get a full idea of what's going on underneath here. I'm gonna have to weld up all these little holes where the metal screws were. Also gonna have to weld up the holes where the rivets were that I had to drill out to take that structural member out. So I'll just fill those back in, and I'll stitch weld this structural member back down to the floor, because that's the only way to do it, because I don't have the type of rivets that they use to build John boats. I just have regular pot rivets, and those won't work. Anyway, at least I got an idea what's going on now, so on to the next step. Getting it cleaned up with a wire wheel, and that's a stainless wire wheel. Do not use regular steel. It will contaminate the surface of the aluminum. It will actually embed iron oxide into it, which is a contaminant. You have to use stainless steel to clean aluminum. And aluminum, before you weld it, needs to be clean enough you can eat off of it practically, because any contamination will give you hell. Anyway, there's the crack there. Probably going to have to put a jack underneath here and push up on that a little bit to try to close all this up. And then I'm going to stop drill at the ends of it to stop the crack from running any further, and then weld all that up. Anyway, about to move on to the next step, trying to get it welded up and then get that structural member back in there. Well, making progress now. I've got all the holes filled up. I got that massive crack fixed here in the bottom. I used my spool gun to lay in that first pass, but and even though you think those welds might look okay, you know, there could be a, like right there, see that little hole right in the center of that? That could be a weep hole. So to be sure that this is going to be watertight and these welds are going to be good and strong, I'm going to go back over them with TIG, Heliarc, just to make sure that I've got any impurities burned out and that I have complete fusion and there's no pinholes. So once I do that, then I can grind these surfaces down a little bit and lay that rib back in here and start trying to put this thing back together. Making progress. Well, there we go. I've run over all these welds with the TIG welder just to get out any pinholes that might have been in it. Also, if there was any additional cracks they opened up, which they did, I found a couple of cracks that I did not see before as soon as I started putting the heat to it with the TIG torch. But anyways, that was a hell of a crack right there. So now I'm gonna grind all this down, just flatten it out a little bit, and then I'm gonna get that structural member back in here. At that point, got a couple of rivets that are leaking. We'll get those fixed, and then after that, she'll be done. There you go. All right, now, there you go. Folks, not only does she know how to handle a gun, a fishing pole, a boat, she can drive a damn backhoe. Anyway, I had to use that to put some down pressure on this cross member in here to get that right. Good job. Well, I got that structural member down in there. Like I said, I had to use the backhoe and a block of wood to push down on it, because it was probably about a 3/4 to 1 inch gap, and my body weight would not push that thing down. So a little help from hydraulics got it in there. So I've got it welded back on the floor instead of riveted. Getting structural members back in place. I got to make one structural member for over here on this side to go right here. Apparently whoever repaired the boat before had taken that out to do the repair, and they didn't put it back. So I'm gonna have to take me a piece of square tube and fabricate a new rib to go right there, just to reinforce that section so that there's no more flex in the hull there to cause any more cracks. But just about to wrap up on it. I do have one hairline crack up there in the bow, right where it meets up there on that V from where it's hit the roller. So other than that, it's just about done. So doing the last step now, which is adding in that missing structural member. I used a piece of 1.5 inch square aluminum tube, and I'm just gonna stitch weld it down the sides rather than try to fabricate a flange for it, which it's not necessary to have a flange. That's just for riveting. But welding it straight to the hull, no need for rivets. So anyway, with that going in, this bad boy here will be done. Well, after leak testing, the entire area where I did the repair was bone dry. Take one last look at it up here. So use the backhoe to push that structural member back down and weld it to the floor. Replace the missing structural member with a piece of square tube. Also, because this structural member was gone and this piece was gone on top of it, I had to make a copy of what they had over here on this side, which is like this shaped flange here. Well, I used my press brake in the shop, took a piece of 1/8 inch plate, and basically did the same thing right there. So there she is, and now the area I repaired is probably stronger than the rest of the boat. Anyway, that's how she's done right there.